It is my absolute honour and privilege to be here in San Francisco with the past US Ambassador to Australia, Jeffrey Bleich. Thank you so much for speaking to the Australia-China Youth Dialogue.
No, thank you, Alex. It's great to be here.
So from your experience as US Ambassador to Australia, you would have had a very unique insight into the Australia-China relationship. I was wondering if you could make a few comments on what you saw.
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, over the time that I was there had been a real shift in the kinds of concerns I heard about U.S.-China-Australia relations. The relationship between Australia and China had been very strong economically, but there was some concern about the security relationship long term, particularly after the Rio Tinto incident with Stern Hu being arrested and charged with espionage and later convicted of corruption charges, and also what appeared to be hacking attacks on Rio Tinto. And so based on that, there had been this sense of a hedged position where Australia wanted to maintain a strong relationship with China economically, but wanted to make sure that the U.S. wasn't going to abandon the region based on distractions with the economy and with the conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Australian public was very happy with both the economic relationship with China, with the overall U.S.-Australia multi-layered relationship, and that they were glad to see the U.S. and China in a healthy dialogue on a lot of tough issues. So I think my sense was that over the 4 years that I was there, you saw concerns that kind of bookended the period, but that the substance of the period was a very healthy one for all three countries.
I think it's common for from a lot of Australian perspectives to feel that geography is our advantage, being in the Asia-Pacific region when it comes to our relationship with China.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments on the US-China relationship now? Because I think a lot of people underestimate just how deep and close it is.
The US and Australia, our relationship is just rock solid. The US-China relationship, the US is actually one of the principal supporters of China since the 1970s and sort of bringing it to its tremendous economic rise. And our efforts have been to see China grow and continue to become a strong market and a strong player in world affairs.
I was wondering what you see some of the challenges from a geopolitical angle going forward between China and the US.
Some of them are simply that we have different concepts of rule of law in some areas. So in particular in the area of intellectual property protection. As China continues to rise, more and more of the intellectual property on which it relies will be its own homegrown intellectual property that it will want to protect from other countries. And I think that will naturally cause it to have the same feelings about intellectual property protection that the U.S. has. We have differences over things, but those things have been identified very clearly. And we have a strategic and economic dialogue where we are sending literally hundreds of diplomats and economists and other folks over from side to side on a regular basis to try and sort through those issues. But, it's interesting. The Chinese, laws, constitution are actually very, very protective of human rights. I think it's a matter of the practice sort of catching up with the aspiration, and the issue is whether or not you'll see an acceleration of that as they become more prosperous, more stable. But what we found in the United States, and one of the reasons why we are so positive about the model that we have, is that even though we're imperfect, and we demonstrate that more often than any of us would like, we're self-correcting. For China to be, I think, long-term as successful as we hope it will be, they need to create systems, not necessarily the same ones that the U.S. has, but some systems that allow people whose rights have not been properly respected to seek redress
rather than continuing to focus on my fault, the differences between our nations, maybe looking at some of the similarities between China and the US in what they're prioritising. And one area that seems to jump out for me is energy and energy security, addressing climate change. I was wondering if you'd speak to that a little bit.
On the clean energy space, we both recognize the importance of showing leadership in the world in reducing our carbon footprints, and as well as the other particulates and other unhealthy elements that come out of fossil fuels. We have new technologies that are more sustainable, that are cleaner, that are better, and if we can get the cost down, they will give both of our economies tremendous advantages going forward. But even more so, we'll kind of stabilize the planet, and that's to our advantage as well. So we have a common interest in that, and you see it in the major investments in solar in particular between the two countries, wind between the two countries, but also looking at some of these very cool technologies with enhanced battery storage capacity, smarter grids, the use of wave and tidal energies, moving off of coal and oil more quickly than anyone anticipated towards natural gas as a lower carbon alternative, but seeing it as a transition as we move to these sustainable energy systems. So in that area, you see a lot of cooperation between us.
Well, I was wondering if you had a last message to the delegates of this year's ACYD.
Just by doing this, you are advancing our collective future. Just by reaching out to other cultures, trying to understand them better, trying to find where the areas of disagreement are, and there will be areas of disagreement, but approaching them in a respectful fashion, and trying to concentrate on the things that bind us will be the key to working through any issue that we've had in the future.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Bleich.
No, well, thank you, Alex.